One of the lesser-known feuds in the 90s was between one of gangsta rap's pioneers, Ice Cube, and Pac, with the pair's friendship deteriorating into a feud built largely upon misunderstandings and miscommunications rather than open hostility. The pair met in 1990, just after Cube had left NWA and when Pac was a roadie and backup dancer for the group Digital Underground. Cube had already carved out a formidable reputation as a part of NWA and established himself as one of the best rappers, while Pac was just beginning his journey. As Cube recalled on Talib Kweli's People Party podcast, Pac had grand ambitions that Cube and NWA had influenced. He regarded Cube as his hero.
He would always tell me like, this digital shit is cool, man, but I want to do records like y'all, I want to do. He said, because where I live at, the shit is f***ed up, you know what I'm saying? I want to talk about how the shit is,
Pac's excellent debut album, Tupacalypse Now, released in November 1991, would tackle many of the same issues as Straight Outta Compton, such as racism, police brutality, poverty, and black-on-black crime. Aside from music, both rappers were budding actors, with Cube starring in John Singleton's classic 1991 film, Boys in the Hood, and the 1992 thriller, Trespass, while Pac made an impressive debut in Juice. However, Cube declined to feature in Singleton's 1993 film, Poetic Justice, with his role going to Pac. Cube revealed in an interview with Big Boy that he had issues with Singleton's script, particularly the scene where Pac's character, Lucky, beats up his friend Chicago.
I only had one problem with it, and he didn't want to change it, so I didn't want to do it. The problem was, I didn't think me playing Tupac that I would kick my homeboy out the car for a girl I just met. I didn't think that was cool. It made the character kind of a sucker to me.
However, despite Tupac taking the role, Cube said on the People's Party podcast with Talib Kweli that there was no tension because of his decision and that he was proud of Pac and pleased to have given him the opportunity.
It was real cool to see, John taking another rapper under his wing and turn him into a fucking star. That's what he did with me. That's what he did with Pac. He did it with Busta Rhymes, so it was just cool to see another rapper in the game getting a shot on the big screen.
The pair's blossoming friendship reached the studio, with Cube and Ice-T appearing on Pac's 1993 track, Last Words. In 2020, Ice-T tweeted rare footage of the trio in the studio together from that same year, with the three laughing and joking together. The pair's relationship began to sour when Pac recorded arguably his greatest single, the heartfelt and deeply moving Dear Mama, in 1994. Initially, the track sampled Cube's It's a Man's World, which featured Cube's protege, Yo-Yo, whom Pac had dated in the early 90s. However, Pat Charbonnet, the manager of Cube's Lynch Mob Records, blocked the sample. It remains unclear as to why the sample was blocked, but DJ King Assassin, who scratched on the original version, released the original version in 2016 following Pac's mother's death and revealed Tupac's reaction to the sample not being clear. The day after we had finished up on everything, we were in Echo Sound in LA when Tupac comes into the studio very upset and proceeds to explain to us that we had to take out Yo-Yo's part because a person by the name of Pat Charbonnet would not give us the clearance to use that part in the song, so we had no choice but to take it out. In an interview with Art of Dialogue, DJ King Assassin stated that he believed the decision to block the sample came down to Cube.
I knew that was, Ice Cube's call right there, because she knows hip hop, but she can't be like the shot caller of saying, hey, you can't use, everything has to be approved by Ice Cube at the end of the day.
Later in the interview, Assassin affirmed that he believed that was when the pair's relationship began to sour.
He was mad about it, because Yo-Yo's his friend. He thought Ice Cube was his friend, And after that, it went from, I think Ice Cube kind of lost his clout with Tupac at that point.
Despite the Dear Mama incident, Pac was slated to be a part of Cube's America's Most Wanted tour in late 1994, months after Dear Mama had been recorded. However, Pac missed the tour as he was unable to leave the US because of his ongoing sexual assault case. Pac was eventually incarcerated in early 1995. In Pac's absence, Cube began to engage in a feud with Chicago rapper Common. Cube had taken exception to Common's 1994 track, I Used to Love Her, a track cleverly detailing the history of hip-hop through the metaphor of a woman. Particularly, Cube was unhappy with Common's suggestions that gangsta rap had potentially tainted hip-hop, with Common rapping, talking about popping Glocks, serving rocks, and hidden switches. Now she's a gangster, rolling with the gangsta b****s, always smoking blunts and getting drunk, telling me sad stories. Now she only f***s with the funk. Cube hit back on Westside Slaughterhouse, making things personal. Used to love her, mad cause we f***ed a p***y whip with no common sense. Pac's former protege, Napoleon, told The Art of Dialogue that Pac considered backing Cube in the diss, but Pac's own problems with Cube stopped him.
I remember around the Death Row things when the East Coast, West Coast was heating up. I think Common and Cube was going through their beef, like they was dissing each other. And I remember Pop was like, see man, if I was cool with Cube right now, I'd be going at Common for him. But now I'm staying out of it.
Pac may have been annoyed at Cube's lack of support while he was in jail, although neither party has officially confirmed that. With Pac in prison, Cube had arguably become the West Coast leading artist. However, upon his release, Pac made an emphatic return with California Love before releasing the legendary diss track Hit 'Em Up in June 1996, an ultra-aggressive attack primarily aimed at Biggie and Puff. Cube stated in an interview with Genius that he felt Pac went too far on Hit 'Em Up.
I mean, I think he went too far too. Me personally, I ain't got to diss. If I'm mad at you, trust me, I can think of 5 verses for you, just you. I don't have to go at your family and your kin and your kids and, you know, your whole life.
In August 1996, Cube's group West Side Connection dropped the track Bow Down, with Cube professing himself the motherfucking Don, a title Pac frequently adopted. In an interview after the track's release, Tupac spoke about how he felt Cube was trying to copy his style.
I dig Ice Cube. I looked up to him. But because I looked up to him and I studied his style, mastered his shit, I know what he's doing is wrong. He's a shit selling, so now he's going on a war shit, and he's using us as the gas. He just dropped some shit called Bad Down. And if you listen to it, you can see he heard Hit 'Em Up and was like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. Why he wasn't making him bow down when I was in jail? That's what I mean, that's wrong. Right. See, now that's wrong, and I'm not gonna let that happen, because then that would make me obsolete.
Pac suggests that Cube mimics his style to try and emulate his success, but more tellingly, he hints at why their relationship might have broken down. However, Bow Down isn't a diss track, it's more a statement of supremacy, so Pac might have just been annoyed that Cube had altered his sound, shifting from a funkier style to the mafioso style that Pac adopted upon his release from prison. In a 2023 interview with No Jumper, Cube's fellow West Side Connection member Mac 10 stated that Pac's claims had no truth.
That's totally false. We was too into what we was doing to even care what Hit 'Em Up or no other record sounded like.
Pac's death, just weeks after the release of Bow Down, meant that their feud was never resolved, and Pac didn't have a chance to respond to Bow Down, even if he had wanted to. The pair's beef wasn't as heated as Pac's other feuds at the time, and neither rapper called out each other via their music. Pac clearly had a fixed agenda upon being released from prison, showing his loyalty to Death Row and going after Biggie and anyone associated with him. While he may have been annoyed at Cube, Pac's vendetta against Biggie took precedence. Although the pair's beef never reached the animosity of other feuds of the era, an interview Cube gave with The Art of Dialogue in 2022 suggests there may have been some lingering ill feeling. When asked to name his top 15 rappers of all time, Cube notably omitted Pac but did include Biggie, among the likes of Nas, Jay-Z, and Eminem. It was a list that got fans speculating and could be interpreted as showing the scars of the pair's feuds linger. Alternatively, it could simply be that Cube didn't rate Tupac as highly as other artists despite his influence on his early career.